2024 was supposed to be the year of MMORPGs. I was told that. You guys were told this. I made videos covering all of these great MMOs that was going to be releasing in 2024, which never released. But there were certain MMOs that did release this year, and we're going to be taking a look at how they're doing today and what went wrong with them and which MMOs are doing good. And then we're also going to be taking a look at early access MMOs, but we're not going to talk too much about those because you can't really actually fully play them yet. So let's jump into the video. First thing on the list is a NightCrows. NightCrows released in March 14th, I think, on both PC and mobile. And this game looked to be absolutely incredible with the details. Unreal Engine 5 of the game, the quality of the game was amazing. It is, in my opinion, being a mobile game, it is the best looking MMORPG that I've seen. So I had very high expectations to this, and then I played it, and at the end of the day, it is a cross-play with mobile game. So you guys can guess how it ended. The problem with this game was that NightCrows was actually one of the most played games in the eastern side of the world. So I was guessing that it might be good in some type of way, right? Amazing graphics, so many players play it. It has to be good. So I started playing this, and guess what, guys? The game played for itself. Yes, I somehow managed to get 50 hours into this game. By the game, I mean, it wasn't really that hard because the game played for itself. It just had my character doing everything. It was extremely pay to win, and it's try to go like a ThroneAndLiberty route with a lot of like PvP bosses and such, but it was just like an open, empty world, not any PvE stuff, a lot of pay to win futures. So of course the game ended up plummeting in the West because people realized that this is not a game, this is a movie that you watch and you just swipe your card. It's like a AFK type game where you just have a character that does everything for you. You can even leave your PC on like offline mode and it will just grind for you all day. So you just come back to amazing loot and stuff. So, and you have to grind like insane amount of monsters. So it like force you to AFK grind, which is really sad because the game had incredible potential. The characters look good. The skills were decent to use. And they promised all this amazing massive, it did have a massive world, but it was just very empty and very AFK. So NightCrows today is not doing too well, even though it was expected to do really good because it did so good in the Eastern release. It plummeted in player base, a lot of negative reviews, and if you guys want to watch my full 50-hour video review of this game, you guys are welcome to, because I roast this game to oblivion, so you guys can check out the video. But let's jump into the next on the list. Next on the list is Tarisland, that released in June. And if you guys have been watching me, you guys know I have hundreds of hours into Tarisland. It was a very exciting project because it was supposed to be the new modern WoW with newer graphics, amazing raids, a lot of promises of pay to win and not being allowed in the game. And the release of the game was really good. It has an amazing player base, a lot of streamers playing it. There was raids to world first and the raids were amazing. But that's where things started going not so good for Tarisland because there was a lack of content. There was a lot of recycle of the content, and the game was very casual friendly. You couldn't grind in any type of way. You couldn't do anything except these raids. The PvP was super lackluster in the game. You didn't feel like a reward for progression in the game, unfortunately. So it was more like a raid simulator. Like the character would kind of gear itself by just doing like random dailies, because you couldn't get any more power than anybody else. Everybody's like the same level. Thing was time gated, but the raids were really good. But once the raids started when you finish the raids and they released the same raids with one new mechanic, people got bored and they ended up leaving the game. And then they waited a long time for a big update because it follows like a seasonal system. So they released season 1, and this was where everybody will come back to the game, right? The excitement was there. They were ready. They were teasing that season 1 is going to be incredible. All of these new raids, all of the content. But season 1 was horrible because the map was smaller. There was less dungeons. There were less raids. There was less stuff to do. And they started introducing pay to win to the game. So the game overall just became it just had massive issues. There was nothing to do in the game. with this new update. And at launch, they basically time gated you, so you could only play, like the season 1 launch, you could only play maximum 1 hour and you would finish everything. So you played 1 hour every day until like day 5 or 6 when they finally introduced the raids. So I don't know who were managing this game or whatever happened to Tarisland, but it had a really good launch, and till this day, it's still one of the best raids to do, especially cross-platform, especially cross-platform between PC and mobile. But they just, everything else was just super lackluster. And I kind of want to look at the Steam charts, even though the Steam charts doesn't show the reality of the game because nobody plays this game on Steam. They were supposed to launch the Steam client of this game on season 1, but they failed, and the game wasn't on Steam on release, so nobody actually played Steam. But this kind of shows this is where the new season launched, right? And you can see that it just completely dropped. And this is kind of same for the other numbers that people play on the client and mobile. They ended up merging all the servers. So Tarisland could not do it. They could not kill. Wow, that, I don't know, that was what they were trying to do. The same in China too. It plummeted in China and they really realized the issues, but Tarisland did not make it. Probably will shut down next year. I don't think there's going to be a season 2, but who knows. Next up, ThroneAndLiberty. Now, ThroneAndLiberty released in October, 1st of October, and there was a lot of like controversy around the game. People weren't sure if the game would be good or not. We played it before. At the start when we played it, it was horrible because it was all like, it was basically NightCrows. Everything was auto, and then they changed it. They made the combat even better, but the release of the game was really successful. They had 300 plus 1,000 players. AGS, they know what they're doing. The game has been probably on today's list. It's probably the MMO that is doing the best. It had a lot of content. There was a lot of MMO features to it where you can grind, you can play, a lot of good features, but it has been losing population steadily. If you look at the Steam charts of the game, this is actually the MMO that I am currently playing right now. I have like 500 plus hours in this, and I enjoy the game, but it is a really well-made MMO, but it does have its issues, and the main issues stems from not being able to look at the casual player base, right? It's a lot of like big alliances that control everything. It's a PvP MMO at the end of the day. They did add some grindy PvE lately, but it's just too much PvP, and people can't participate in the PvP events or bosses because there's just massive guilds just zerging everything, which I said is going to happen with this game, right? So if you can see, they're steadily losing player base, but they still have a solid like 50k player base. Some of them probably are bots, so like 30,000 I would say is the average player base, 30-40,000, which is still good. And I think right now it is the only MMO that actually felt like a proper MMO. It felt like there was some effort into it, and there was a lot of stuff to do, a lot of content to do, a lot of PvE, a lot of PvP to do, and it's a reason why this is the MMO that I play right now, because from all the new releases, it had the best potential, and the devs have been working, could work harder, but at the end of the day, it is doing well for now. We'll see how it will be at the next year, the next content. I know a lot of people are waiting for the tier 2 to get back into the game, so we'll see when the tier 2 gear and stuff release. Will it get a player surge, or I think that would be like a make or break of the game. But right now, I would say from all of the MMOs that released in 2024, it's doing the best, even though it's losing players. But every MMO ends up losing players over time. So we'll see what the future holds for ThroneAndLiberty. But let's jump into the next. The next one I have on my list is BrighterShores. Yes, BrighterShores released early November. I think it's like in early access still, so it shouldn't kind of be on the list, but I'll still mention it because BrighterShores is basically made by Andrew Gower, who has a small team who developed RuneScape. And it's a very RuneScape-like game. I did test it out. I gave my first impression of it. The game feels good, but it's still in early development, and the team is small, so you're not gonna get like a super fleshed out MMORPG. It's gonna take a while. Looking at the player charts of the game, of course, he had a massive surge of players on release because, I mean, he has a good reputation and he was really good for the game, but it has ended up in a very stable 2k player base state, which has, if you look at it, It seems like that's where it's gonna be staying for now. He's continuously updating people on Twitter. The game overall, I think the idea of the game is really good. It just needs a lot of mechanics to implement it into the game. It needs more content into the game. But I don't see this game being like super massive in any type of way. I mean, it is a type of MMO that you kind of have to enjoy. It's like the click to move, very grindy type of a game. And so not everybody can enjoy it, but for those that enjoy it, I think it is really well done, good communication from the developers. And I do think the number of the players on the from every game on the list, I think this is the MMO that will probably increase its numbers. I know it's on 2K right now, average players, or 24-hour peak, but I think this is the MMO where they will introduce updates and patches and stuff that where the player base will basically increase, because the developers, the people that work on the game, actually care about the project and not only about the money. He even said it like, I'm not gonna make any microtransactions because I got money, I'm rich. So I'm not gonna add anything. The subscription model on this game is extremely cheap for the values today. So I do think this has great potential, but released in November, so really hard to say where it's going right now. But I do think it's gonna end up in a very solid, dedicated community player base. But let's jump into the last one. We got Corepunk. Yes, it's also kind of in like early access stages, but Corepunk was MMO that I was very excited for. Unfortunately, it did not release on Steam, but it's like a MOBA style MMORPG, right? With a click to move, with the skills that you have to aim, and I like everything, the graphics about it. But from everybody that played it, including myself, it seems like the end game is very lackluster. It has a very lackluster combat. It needs a lot of quality of life improvements. So many players that actually checked out Corepunk kind of left the game because it just is very lackluster right now. So Corepunk, I don't see it doing really well in the future. I do think they can end up, again, like I said, with BrighterShores, with a very dedicated player base, but the game needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of content, even though the game, like, skills looks really good and they work really well. And the idea of the game is really well made. It just is too lackluster content wise and quality of life wise. So I mean, it is still in early access, so we'll see what they will develop it into and how it will become. But right now, I don't have very high hopes for the game. So these are the games that are released, like kind of fully released in 2024. I mean, MMOs is like early access, all that stuff. But I want to mention some bonus MMOs that are coming out or are already out, playable, basically in the MMO genre. And then first of all, we have we got to talk about this quick. BlueProtocol was supposed to release, they canceled it, but it's going to be a mobile version of the game. But yeah, that's going to be coming out. I don't think this game will last. It has, again, very lackluster content, a lot of complaints, even in Japan. But I don't think it's gonna. I mean, it's a reason they canceled it already, right? But they're releasing a mobile version of it, and hopefully maybe that will do good. We don't know. But mobile, it will be cross-platform for PC too. So if you guys want to check it out, you can. Next up, we have AshesofCreation, which is also in alpha. I tested it out. Game is probably coming out in 2040, so we're not going to talk too much about it, but it's playable every weekend. You can have fun, and still some content test out that it continuously like updating the game. But again, not coming out until 2040. PaxDei Sandbox MMO, also in early access. The game itself revolves around basically, you don't get any missions, anything. Everything in the game is a sandbox MMO, so you have to build everything yourself, do everything yourself. They are putting out updates and stuff, fixing the combat and a lot of stuff. But again, it's like a niche type of MMO, and they are also at a very low player number, but a dedicated player number. But it is playable. You can have fun with PaxDei, but I don't know what the plan for it is, or what the roadmap for this is. If they're going to do a massive overhaul of the game, if they can keep it the same, we don't know. Next up, we have Pantheon, A Rise of the Fallen, aimed at basically old school MMO fans. Again, early access game. Game was fun. I actually checked it out. It was fun to some degree, but again, lacking a lot of content. Needs a lot of quality of life improvements. But we'll see. I mean, it's playable. You can check it out. So we'll see where it goes. And last but not least, we have Path of Exile 2. The reason I'm just going to mention it, it is not an actual MMORPG. It's an MMO. It's like you can play online with friends, massive multiplayer. So I wasn't sure if I'm going to put it on the list, and it's very new release too. But from every game on this list, even ThroneAndLiberty, Path of Exile 2 is definitely the best. Okay, I'm not gonna say more about Path of Exile 2. It's a really good game. Developers that care about the game, and player numbers are, you know, going crazy. Path of Exile 1 was amazing. Path of Exile 2 is gonna be amazing, but I just want to mention it. But that is it for the MMOs that released in 2024. I know there's a bunch of other smaller MMOs that are released. I mean, I could make a video and cover 30. I mean, there's a bunch of like mobile MMOs to release, most of like crossplay, pay to win MMOs to release. But I just want to focus on the biggest names, right? Because most of these MMOs are not doing good, so there's no point in covering them. At the end of the day, 2025. I know I said this last year. 2025 is looking good for MMO fans. You know, we might be getting some MMORPGs, maybe a little bit of Chrono Odyssey, who knows, maybe some Dune Awakening, even though it's not an MMORPG anymore. So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming into 2024. I'll be covering that in my new video, all the new MMOs coming out 2024, so stay tuned for that. Let me know what you guys think. Which MMO are you guys playing? Do you guys go back to old MMOs, or are you checking out one of these newer MMOs? I would love to know. Thank you guys for watching. Take it easy. Check out this video right here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.